Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to lecture 26. In this lecture we will start the discussion on the municipal finance. In last week we started the discussion on the development management part, and we have started discussion on the basic planning and development aspects. We have seen regional planning, urban planning, and how to incorporate the plans with the infrastructure projects. Now any development plan and any development cannot be successfully implemented unless the finance is understood and finance is financing of the project and it is done properly. And as a whole the financing altogether is a separate subject and it needs a proper attention. So, in this course in this particular week we will have overview discussion of the various aspects of the municipal finance and how it can be improved using few strategies. So, today we will start the discussion. In this discussion what we will cover is basically what is the sources of municipal finance, traditional sources, then financial resource management, how we can manage the various sources of finance, and what are the major issues and roles, so that in the next lecture we can go to further areas of the municipal finance. So, let us start. Now, you know that 74th Constitutional Amendment Act is a mother act which gives all the powers to the municipalities as a local government, and following the 74th Amendment Act the state government is supposed to delegate all the powers. Now, here it devolves the functions related to representation of the preparation of the plan and development schemes, and in it includes traditional municipal functions, and out of that some have been taken over by the some parastatals, and most importantly the major devolution of the work as per the 12th schedule is left to the state government discretion. But as a matter of the fact 74th Amendment does not provide a revenue raising powers to the municipality, because it depends on the state government whether it is determined and regulated or not. Whereas the State Finance Commission and the Central Finance Commission, the provision of all these finance commissions are there in the 74th Amendment. And another important part is there is no division between the revenue source between the state and the municipalities, are very clear cut demarcation is not there, and also therefore the transfer of municipalities transfer to the municipalities of this financing and the resource mobilization is basically a discretionary nature, and some of the state governments they have done that. So, considering these limitations at these points, we can discuss considering that municipalities can mobilize the finance, can mobilize the essential resources. So, let us see the traditional source of the finance like this. So, you can see that from the central government, state government, basically we get the capital grants and loans, then development assistance from HUTCO or any other organization, bilateral, multilateral, and apart from this is whatever we get from the outside agency, outside ULB agency, and apart from that from the local level we have various sources. One is own sources of revenue, out of that one is tax sources, another is non-tax sources. Out of tax sources the property tax is the popular and the most important tax sources. There could be entertainment tax, octroi, vehicle tax. Apart from that, within the non-tax sources there could be fees, fines, licenses, land development and readjustment charges, then exaction charges. Apart from that, there could be user charges like say water supply or other essential services. Besides, there could be budget allocation from the central and the budget allocation from the organizations, from the higher authorities. There could be loans and grants from the different public sector or private sector. There could be receipts from the taxes shared with government. There could be some taxes which is shared by the state government. So, that is also another source of the revenue. Then now, the problem is there are few issues which we see at the local level, those are basically weaknesses. Let us see the weaknesses at the local level. Now, absence of the adequate functional and financial power, this is the foremost limitations of the urban local bodies, because most of the cases the financial powers and the functional powers are partially delegated to the local level. Then poor financial status. So, it is basically the low level of resource base and unaugmented resource potentials. Then absence of adequate and technical manpower. The technical manpower who is dedicated for financing and resource mobilization, those are very few in the municipality or the corporations. Absence of regular maintenance and consequent higher operating cost, this is all about the infrastructure. The most of the infrastructure in the urban sector, these are capital intensive, and after completion and the implementation of the infrastructure projects, most of the projects they suffer from the inadequate maintenance and the operation, because that is not taken care of at the beginning when the project is implemented. Then higher administrative and supervision charges, it is also applicable for local government, because local government sometimes they cannot deliver the supervision and administration for the projects, sometimes they hire the outside agency. So, that causes lot of extra expenditure out of that, and then losses due to the unaccounted for water and other services. This kind of losses and leakages also leads to the various kinds of wastage of the resources. Now, based on this weakness, basically we can manage the overall situation by various principles, like one could be the revenue enhancement. There could be some strategies or some actions which can enhance our revenues, existing revenue sources, and also few alternate revenue sources. Next, we can manage the expenditure in such a way so that the wastage is less, and the expenditure what we do at any sector, it is effective and fulfilling its objective. Next is the asset management. Whatever asset is there at the municipalities, at the urban local bodies, that is managed properly, and asset becomes really a asset. It needs minimum operation and maintenance cost, rather it gives more return to the municipality. And also investment management, how we can invest for the larger projects, for the capital intensive projects. So, these are the major guidelines or how strategies we can do. Now, out of every guidelines we should see the salient questions or indicators and parameters and the exact strategies what we could do. So, let us start with the revenue enhancement. In the revenue enhancement, basically first we see that what are the basic sources of the revenue. Even though we have started with this discussion, so one is property tax, non-tax revenue, building plan sanctions, trade license, water connection and other charges, then conservancy fees. So, these are traditional sources of the revenue in the municipalities. There are few other revenues like septic tank clearances, all those fees is applicable. Now, based on this, let us analyze that what kind of problems are there. So, we have to ask this type of question like what is the ratio of collection of each item of receipt out of the total revenue received. Now, in for every infrastructure and the services, for running those services we need to spend some money for running that particular infrastructure or services, and we have to invest some money and we have to get some return. So, what is the ratio between these two? What is the trend for the last several years, say 5 years? So, every municipalities or corporation, they have the last 5 years or more data on each and every revenue sources. So, please look into that. What is the trend? Is it increasing? It is decreasing? What is the current trend? Next is the what is the proportion between collection against the current year's demand and collection against area demand under each sources of the revenue. For example, you are seeing that property tax collection or non-tax collection. So, what is the demand against demand and collection against such demand, and percentage wise you can see that whether the 80%, 90%, what is the actual demand, what you got or what it came to the municipal account. Then what is the proportion of the current year's collection against current year's demand? That is what I told, that it has to be seen. Then what is the proportion of area collection against area demand? Apart from the current year, what is the collection in the past years, area collections, that has to be seen. And is it possible to ascertain goods doubtful portions out of the amounts not collected against current and area demand? So, please ascertain if there is a doubtful doubtful collection or portion. Based on these questions, now how we can augment the revenues? Now, after ascertaining goods and doubtful portion of current area demand, it is possible to fix target and collection. The answer is yes. I tell you how to do. Once target is fixed, what is the end result? Now, based on each and every tax sources or non-tax sources, what is your target for the current year or the next year or even after beyond that, and what is the end result after getting that revenues, what we are going to do with that? What was the target fixed on the higher side? If yes, what should be the ideal target? Please rationalize your target based on your manpower, based on your capacity to collect the tax or the non-tax revenues. Please see that whether the target is fixed as a very high level or it is fixed within your capacity level, that need to be seen. That means your feasibility of collection. What is the target fixed on the lower side? If yes, how can it be improved? If you fix the target in your lower side, your manpower resource or human resource will be misutilized. So, they will not be utilized fully, therefore, you can enhance your target. So, always fix the target, it is not a one time job, every time you have to do by kind of a trial and error and continuous feedback mechanism from your team, you can fix the target. Next is that can the collection mechanism be improved by change of personnel or giving special rewards? Now, how you can improve the collection mechanism? Either by giving training or by giving some incentives to your team member. Then does clear demarcation? Now, these are the augmenting strategy for the property tax. The property tax is the very common and very popular sources of the revenue. So, you should see the property tax in a very clear manner. Now, first is the does it have the clear demarcation of the residential properties and commercial properties? Most of the municipalities, the clear demarcation is not there. So, for that you need to make a base map of the municipality showing each and every holding and every clear demarcation of the every holding, so that you can see the holdings and you can link with the database of the tax and you can judge whether that every whether the every holdings they are connected with the tax base or not. Most of the some of the municipalities, they have tried this exercise by using GIS based mapping technologies, and out of that they can assess whether the holdings are able to generate tax or not, and how much holdings are giving tax regularly, or those data is available. How many properties lie unassessed? Have you assessed all the properties, and if so, what is the condition of that, and what is the coverage of the properties which is not at all assessed, which need to be assessed? That is only possible if you can make a base map of the holding or the plot maps, and then you can assess that. Then how much is the delay in the assessment procedure? So, please estimate the delay based on your existing system. Then how much is the delay in sending bills? So, please rationalize or analyze analyze the process. We had a detailed discussion in the process and system improvement. So, following that you analyze your process and try to simplify and make it efficient process, so that the delivery become quickly. Is there a regular check on the exempted holdings? If in your municipality there are few exempted holdings, now what is the basis of exemption? Is there any check for the exemption? Is the exemption for eternal time, or it is given for some particular time period? So, those kind of things need to be updated on your base map regularly, time to time. Then next is ward wise classification of defaulters. If you find that some of the properties or the holdings, they are not submitting the property tax, so what could be the ward wise classification? Now, why ward wise? Because if you make ward wise list and the maps, it is better to monitor at individual level, because at the ward your municipal councillors are there and they work on a in a micro level, in a individual level, they know each and every persons in the community, in the ward. So, that is possible. Next is decentralized ward wise system of collection and via ward committee. Many municipalities have tried this and it has been a successful phenomenon. It has two dimensions. One is if you involve ward committee and the community based organizations, your collection level will be higher, because they know the ward and the community better than the municipal organization, number one. So, if the collection is higher, you can also leverage some amount of the collection for the running of the ward committee office and the local community offices. So, in this way you can also enhance your revenue base, and also you can give some amount of money for running of the ward committee or the very local level offices. Then fixed target level for the ward committees, change of personnel giving reward for the achievement target. In ward committees and the people who are working at the local level, it is important to give reward. Reward may not be always in financial terms. Some rewards could be in terms of mentioning the name, or disclosing or publishing the name, giving certificates. So many rewarding procedures could be there, but financial reward definitely it motivates people for better performance. Next is the strengthening overall monitoring. Now, how you are monitoring? Is it a manual method, or it is a how at the local level they are also updating their data, and how that data is synchronized with the municipal data. So, those kind of issues are involved. So, you need to develop better system and process to seamless and real time upgradation and updation of the database of the municipal tax. Then improving the satisfaction level of the residents, which must have a positive bearing on the tax collection. The basic question which comes to the resident, that I am giving the money as a tax, but what I am going to get in return. So, this you have to ensure that yes, all the municipal citizens, they are giving tax, and in return they are getting basic infrastructures and services. For services you need to spend lakhs and crores of monies. So, that you have to ensure, and you have to mention during the participation process in the planning and development. In some of the municipalities we have seen that people involved ward committees and community level organizations, not only in the planning but also in the development during day to day supervision of the projects. That way you can not only involve them in the development work, you can earn more money, more resource you can be earned through the involvement of the common people. Okay. So, based on that, apart from your general tax base and non-tax base, you can also identify few other resource center like grants and loans, and there could be central government grants and loans, and project specific grants and loans from the state and central government. For example, most of the municipalities, they are right now getting grants from the Amrut mission and Smart City mission, or any other mission. So, those are also another very important source of the revenue or source of the resources which they can use. Now, how the revenue could be enhanced? One is, as I told, reform of the property tax. when you talk about the reform of the property tax, the different options of the valuation and tax calculation, the traditional classical method of tax valuation is that is each and every individual property and the holding based, but in last few decades there has been an attempt to make the valuation and tax collection based on the area. So, area level assessment and the valuation also can be one option, but success of this area level assessment depends on the case to case and area and municipality to municipality. So, therefore, you can judge whether it is applicable for your case or not. Then is the property tax linked to GIS, that I have already told you that how it can be a seamless updation in the map and real time monitoring also can be done. Then collection efficiency at least 85% within the project period for any particular project, any particular investment or service delivery, the collection can be minimum 85%. Later on, when government started service level benchmarking for each and every basic services like water supply, solid waste management, sanitation, they mentioned and then benchmarked this level of recovery as well. So, this is the indicative benchmark of this the recovery. Then adoption of modern accrual based double entry accounting system, we will have a dedicated lecture on the accounting system. So, I am not going into details. Introduction of the systems of e-governance using IT applications. In the systems and process improvement, we have discussed the application of the e-governance in giving the basic services, pricing municipal services and levy of user charges. So, you can start a user charges for the basic municipal service provided you can reach to the people and convince them that you are going to give a quality service, and on return of that you are basically levying the user charges. Then fixing target for revenue enhancement based on the past analysis and engaged initiative we have discussed earlier, exploring new avenues. So, these are in short the strategies for the revenue augmentation. Next we see very quickly few points of how we can manage the expenditure. So, revenue expenditure includes, one is pay and allowances, the charges for telephone and electricity, establishment charge, pension and gratuity, operational and maintenance charges, and some of the above are fixed, variable and semi fixed or semi variable in nature. Now, how the question is how you manage it and which are the variable, which are not variable, those kind of questions you have to ask, you have to see. Then further question is that is it possible to earmark different areas of establishment as a separate cost center. So, in a municipality how you can make different establishment and take a different database for analyzing the expenditure, so that you can understand that which establishment is wasting money or which establishment is cost effective or not effective, something like that. So, if it is possible, so the variance analysis, that means the that particular sector wise or the establishment wise you can take decision that whether it is running properly with cost effectiveness or not. So, weak areas be identified based on that analysis and improvement suggested. So, after the variance analysis you can identify that which are the variable, which are the sectors are not performing well, and based on that you can suggest few strategies. Now, let us see the type of the expenditure and receipts. So, basically we capital receipts we have State Finance Commission, National Finance Commission, SGSRY, and all these are central government and state government grant, and the expenditure what we have is kind of water supply, street lighting, medical services, solid waste management, slum improvement, drainage, sewerage and road construction. So, these are the other capital expenditure apart from the revenue expenditure. So, one is the capital expenditure which you need to spend for establishing large infrastructure and services, and one is the revenue expenditure which you need to do for running your system. Then how you can improve the service? As the infrastructure is concerned, apart from the infrastructure you can make an assessment of the service, whether the service is paying or not paying. So, what are the major service, what is the percentage of the total population benefited, what is the proportion of the cost recovery, can the service rendered be justified against the cost recovery? You can find that maybe the service is very costly and it is not getting the recovery or the return from the people, and maybe other service, maybe you are not spending much, but it is getting some return. Which is the routine operational cost, is it justified? These are the question you have to make to assess the service level. So, let us see the what could be the management on expenditure management strategy. So, efficient financial rules is required at the local level. Now, most of the municipal government they follow the municipal or the financial rules of the state government. At times it can be insufficient for the municipal body. So, municipal body can time to time they can make their own rules and regulation. The objective of these rules should be ascertain the market cost, ensure the quality, help speedy decision and proper documentation, and apart from the efficient financial rules they can make an efficient organization development plan. We discussed thoroughly in the first section under the urban governance section that how our organization development plan could be done and how it can be improved, and cost saving mechanism. When planning community involvement, we discussed mechanical means per capita airport. So, for every project you can keep or consider some amount of the capital investment as the operation and maintenance planning, then you involve community to run that project or run that services. You can mix a manual and the mechanical means, and so that you can get the maximum benefit from the expenditure. Second is the asset management. In current times many of the municipalities they did not have any clear idea that what are the kinds of assets they have and how to manage that. So, we should also discuss that part. In the asset management, basic questions are: what are the assets used for discharging primary functions such as water supply, cleaning operations, sewage treatment plant, water treatment, etc. Now, these are the primary service provision at the municipal level. So, these assets are much more valuable in terms of the social benefit or the social responsibility. Second is there any loss of revenue or additional expenditure for the inefficiencies of such assets? If so, how much is the loss of revenues and how best we can it can be efficiently run so that the wastage or the loss is less. The second question which comes for the asset management is that whether other assets of the municipalities like parks and playgrounds, tourist spots, heritage building, etc. are in proper shape to act as good sources of the revenue. Now, so far municipalities have considered the heritage building and the parks and playground as a liabilities. Now, if the heritage building is converted to a revenue earning asset, it can be a really very much potential areas of the revenue generation for municipality. So, please do the current stock taking of such potential areas and the assets, so that municipality can assess and definitely improve upon that. Then what is the present level of loss of revenue? Are you getting any revenue? Have you invested some money to make a value addition to that particular heritage building or the tourist spot? What are the available tourist potential areas in your locality or in your city? That has to be identified. Whether there are some ideal cases such as parking space, open land suitable for the housing. Now, from every cities, every municipalities, you might have seen that there are on street parking. It not only create traffic congestion, it also takes away a possibility of the revenue generation. So, if the municipalities they generate the free parking zone in every corner of these cities, so they can take charges and they can strictly enforce that parking is prohibited on street, and on the other hand they have to park on the free parking zone. Those kind of strategies could be there, and they can, and this will act not only for the revenue generation, it will also act to reduction of the congestion in the municipality. So, these are the basic actions in the asset management: listing and the valuation of the assets. That is the first job. All kinds of assets in terms of the basic service delivery like water supply, sewerage, solid waste management, the fixed asset like your green areas, riverfront areas, heritage building, tourism potential areas, everything. Then you try to make an effective use of ideal assets like land, building, equipments. Please explore the credit rating to facilitate market borrowing. There could be some function or some service which you are doing very nicely for last few years, can that be linked with the credit rating, so that you can have some market borrowing for running that project and get some surplus or some revenue from that project. Second is commercial borrowing against assets. If we have created a good amount of assets like land, building, riverfront, etc., can you use that as a deposit or as a mortgage to get some commercial borrowing, and that can be used for some other purpose like investment. So, these are the basically asset management principle and the strategies. Next we mention the investment management. Now, these are the investment sources like the capital market, private sector, offshore financing, and also of course, the government and the public sources. Now, for investment you have to estimate that the first job, estimation of the gap between the existing situation and the vision, preparation of the approximate cost estimate, and it can be based on the consolidated rates from the previous experience or similar improvement in other cities or from available estimate figure. So, this kind of estimate is basically gross in all the city development plan. Based on this gross cost estimate, you have to give an indicative capital investment required for each and every project, because otherwise you cannot figure out what will be the possible sources of the capital. Then prioritization in the investment is the very important matter, because you cannot have the investment for all the projects. So, we have discussed about the concept of the annual plans. Every year you have new projects added to your task, and for that you need to prioritize your projects. So, these are the criteria how you can prioritize. First is the capital cost recovery. The project which gives you maximum capital cost recovery, that should be given first priority. Sustainable in terms of the operational cost. If it is sustainable in terms of operational cost, that means if it has some inbuilt mechanism to have some operational cost, definitely it is preferred. Number of beneficiaries served is to be seen, because more the number of beneficiaries served, more the number of wards served, maximum is the priority. Focus on the urban poor. If the share of the beneficiaries who are served by this particular investment is more on urban poor, that is first priority. Present commitment. Have you committed already this project to the people during your participation? If you have already committed, definitely it needs some amount of more priority and preference. Then scheme completion time. If you find that the scheme is too long, it is taking 10-12 years, it is very difficult to maintain the long term investment. Rather, you can break down the scheme into various phases into 2-3 years, so that you can see the completion, you can monitor the completion, and that therefore time is very important criteria. So, ideally 1 to 3 years is the ideal time to fix the phasing of a particular project or fix the timing of the project, so that you can maintain. Then all factors to be given weightage as per the perception of the ULB. So, it is not the priority of the investment of the capital investment project, it is not the discretion of the mayor or the chairperson. So, some criteria based on the factors has to be given. So, based on those factors you can make the final priority index. The matrix to be fully agreed by the board of the councillor before placing the schemes for investment priority. So, it is the matrix has to be brought through a win-win situation between the board of councillor and the people and the technical group. So, these are all basic strategies we use in terms of revenue augmentation, management of the expenditure, management of the asset, and management of the investment. Now, there are few issues we discussed earlier. So, therefore, there are some roles of the central and state government. The central government's role is basically mostly policy oriented and the facilitation oriented. So, you can have a look like legislative guidance, fiscal concessions, policies and priorities for the primary infrastructure, encouraging the multiple donors, public and private. I just mentioned that Government of India already have allowed the foreign direct investment in the urban infrastructure. So, that is going on to follow a program approach. right now government of India is following the program approach. It is not a scheme or the project approach. All the programs like Amrut, Hriday, Smart City, Swachh Bharat, these are all program approach. Allowing entry of the private sector, it is done. Modification and simplification of the municipal bylaws, it is under preparation. All the state government are directed and they are doing preparation of the manuals and the documents. Now, this municipal bylaws, they will ensure the delegation of the financial power to the municipalities and training program. So, training program is also important. We have discussed in details about the training program earlier. Next is the role of the state government, the devolution of the powers and the finance through amendment of Municipal Act, tariff rationalization and pricing, evolve a policy for private sector participation, set up a regulatory authority, appropriate amendment to the municipal laws. So, these are the possible role and these actions by the state government. Well, so with this we may conclude today's lecture. Today we started the discussion on the municipal finance. Today's lecture was first focused on basically the classical municipal finance options and how we can augment those options. For example, how we can maximize the benefit out of management of the asset management of the expenditure, augmenting the revenues and management of the investment. That is what we discussed today. Next lecture we are going to discuss the alternate source of municipal finance, because the available and the classical sources of the municipal finance may not be sufficient for each and every purpose of the municipality, especially the capital intensive projects. So, therefore, next lecture we will discuss, apart from the traditional sources what we discussed today, what could be the other sources what the municipalities can augment. So, with this I thank you very much for attending this lecture.